Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our webinar on the Yale School of Management's MBA for Executives program. We're thrilled to have you here with us today. My name is Joanne Legler. I'm the Director of Admissions for the MBA for Executives program, and I'm joined by all of my admissions colleagues today. And over the next 45 minutes or so, our goal is to give you an overview of our program, as well as answer some of your questions. We'll talk about the program, our curriculum, our admissions process, and how you can learn more information and what some next steps could be. So thank you to my colleagues for joining me today as well. And thank you for being here with us today. I think a great place to always start when we talk about our program is to introduce you to Yale. Perhaps you've been here before, had a chance to visit, but as you might know, Yale is one of the oldest institutions of higher education in the United States. And we're so lucky to be able to take advantage of all the wonderful resources that Yale has. Here you're seeing a picture of Sterling Memorial Library. Perhaps you can see yourself studying here one day with some of your MBA classmates, and we hope to be able to invite you for a visit at some point to see our beautiful campus. We are very much a part of Yale University. But on the other hand, Yale School of Management is quite new. We're one of the newest or youngest graduate programs at Yale. And what you're seeing here is a photo of our somewhat new building, Evans Hall. As you can see, this contrasts pretty significantly with the rest of Yale University's architecture. Our building is new, it's modern, it's quite transparent, and that really reflects how we think about business and how we do business at Yale SOM. Our agenda today is pretty simple. We'll all be able to give you a short introduction about who we are, what our role is in the office. We're going to give you a pretty extensive high-level overview of the program. We're going to talk both generally and then maybe specifically, depending on the questions that we get, about the admissions process, and then give you some opportunity to think about what your next step might be if you're considering an application to the program. And you're going to be fortunate enough to hear from all of the members of the admissions team. An excellent place to start our presentation beyond that brief introduction is to introduce you to the mission of the Yale School of Management. Our mission is to educate leaders for business and society. This is and was our founding mission, and it's something that everyone here can subscribe to and probably knows and can rattle off by heart, whether they're a student, staff member, or member of our faculty. We always say that the most important words in our mission are the small ones: to, for, and. It's very intentional. And as we know, our leaders really can't solve problems that are facing them on a day-to-day basis with business alone. We can't solve those big problems without business either. This mission very much drives what we do on a day-to-day basis, but it also provides great strategic direction and inspiration for who we are as an institution and who we want to be moving forward as well. I think it's also great for us to move on and think about what Yale SOM is and the MBA program is as a community. We are a community of purpose, but we're also a community on purpose. And what we mean by that is that we intentionally choose folks to join our class that we think are going to be really contributing, inspiring, dedicated members of our community, both during the program and later as alumni. As you can see, we do like to have a lot of fun in the program. These obviously were pictures taken a while back, but we're really thrilled to be able to offer students opportunities to socialize, as well as get together in small groups for study on campus during class weekends. We are lucky enough to have a number of alumni across all sectors and industries from our program, many of whom will come back for in-person panels, colloquium speakers, webinars, to be able to give a flavor and a sense of what it's like to be a student in the program and how they've been able to use their MBA education in their career and leverage those opportunities, skill sets, and networks. I think of our students as inspired. I think of them as inspiring. I think of them as very community-oriented. I find them generous with their time and their information. I find them very much non-transactional. And what I mean by that is our students are here to become part of this community of purpose, to offer what they can from what they've learned from their lessons in business and in leadership, but also very much ready to absorb all the great information that they're going to take from their classmates as they build toward a position of accelerated leadership. This last picture I think is so terrific, in part because it's recent, and in part because it really gives you a sense of who our students are, and gives you an introduction to our leadership. So off to the far left is our Assistant Dean, Wendy Sung. She oversees not only the admissions team here, but also the programs team and the day-to-day operations of our program. And in the middle, that's Dean Kerwin Charles. Dean Charles is still somewhat new to Yale SOM, but we're so thrilled for his support of our program and the ability for him to come to our annual picnic and interact with some of our newest students. These are members of the class of 2023. So who is this program best suited for? In our opinion, this program is best suited for students who are experienced leaders already. Of course, you're going to come to an MBA program hoping to gain additional leadership skills, but we are looking for folks who have already had that opportunity, an opportunity to lead a project or a team, or maybe even an entire organization, and can bring those learnings with them in a way that allows them to still absorb and gain even more skills along the way. Now, we'll talk about our class profile shortly, but we're looking for students with some years of work experience already under their belts to be able to contribute meaningfully to the classroom discussions. Similarly, we're looking for folks with a demonstrated career evolution. So this is not the program for somebody who's early on in their career, maybe their first 5 or 7 years of work experience, maybe not in their first job anymore, but instead somebody who has moved on slowly but surely into positions of more responsibility and leadership, that there's a demonstration that you've moved on and been promoted and rewarded for your hard work, elevating eventually into a position of leadership or potential leadership. And then finally, somebody who's looking for that acceleration, eager to take the next step, and wants the resources and all of the access that Yale SOM and Yale University have to offer to make that next step possible. So if this sounds like you, if this describes a little bit of what you're looking for in your own MBA program, I invite you to continue to learn more about us and take the next step with us as well. So I believe next we're going to talk about the class of 2023, and Christine is going to take it from here and learn more about our students. So Christine, I'm going to let you have the floor.
Thanks, Joanne. Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Balzano. I'm Associate Director of Admission at Yale and the newest to our Yale family. We're glad you can join us. It's my privilege to introduce you to the class of 2023. This photo is a particularly fun one that our Assistant Dean, Wendy Sung, should suggest that the students take on their first day to commemorate this really special time, starting a new chapter of their lives. To give you a little bit more of a finer point on who these folks in this photo are, they are our class of 2023, 75 students who have on average 14 years of experience. 47% of them are women, 50% of them have advanced degrees already in another area perhaps. Our students come from 14 different citizenships and our average age is 37. Let's talk a little bit more about what this community looks like when they come to campus for those every other weekend sessions. Your time required on campus will be a 22-month consecutive program that happens every other Friday and Saturday, including 4 residential weeks. That will mean over 60 days out of the office. Those Fridays and Saturdays, I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. Those 4 residential weeks are highlighted here on the right of the slide. That would be for this class that just started. July of 2022 would have, the class that would be coming in. July of 2022, you'd start with 2 weeks of residential program, typically in the early part of July. And then during the latter part of your first year, you'd have 1 full week of immersion with the Global Network Week, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a little bit. And your final week of residential programming is July of 2023 for 1 week if you were to join us in next year's class. So that's usually the first week of the second year of the program, and it overlaps with one of the 2 residential weeks of the first year program. The every other weekend format means that you're coming into campus from far and wide. You typically Thursday night or Friday morning for those Friday all day and Saturday classes. And while our students come from any number of places, we do have a large majority of students coming from anywhere between Boston and Washington, D.C., and we're pretty easy to access from those places. So we have a good core of students from there, but that doesn't mean that we don't have students coming from other places. We have some from the Midwest. In fact, this first year class includes 5 students from the West Coast, who are making that trip every other weekend. So while we are not right smack in the middle of a city, we really appreciate our location in New Haven, Connecticut, and find that it's a great place for people to easily be able to access. Quick trip from Boston, a quick trip from New York City, train accessibility from both of those, as well as Washington, D.C., access to Bradley Airport or Tweed, which is in New Haven, and easy ability to connect from the New York City airports as well. So New Haven is a robust community, lots of arts, entertainment, and if you're a particular food lover, the food scene is definitely something not to be missed because of our famous differing opinions on which is the best pizza place. So let's talk a little bit more about what the classroom experience is like. While we do expect you to be on campus every other weekend, we do offer the opportunity for an extended classroom for those times when life just gets a little bit too complicated and makes it difficult for you to make your way to campus, or perhaps maybe if the weather inhibits your ability to get to campus. So this actually was what enabled us to pivot pretty quickly when COVID happened. But this extended classroom opportunity is something we use sparingly generally throughout the year. And we ask that you use it in a limited way, but it's something that's available to you. We ask that you request that in advance and do allow that only for a limited number of students to be able to use that from time to time. Because we have state-of-the-art technology throughout Evans Hall, it has made it really easy for us to have those students join us. You'll see this image here, students in the class with those who are having to zoom in from wherever their homes are. So the faculty member teaching that class can see those students in the same way they'd see the ones in the classroom. So our intention with this was to offer some flexibility, despite our program being a requirement on campus. Okay, so here's a little bit more about what specifically those every other Friday and Saturdays look like. So this typical schedule is an example of what a Friday and Saturday is. So you'd start on a Friday at 9 a.m. and go basically all the way through classes through about 4:30 p.m. Got your lunch included in there and your colloquium, which I'll talk about in a second. And then we offer some optional programming in the evening. This one highlights our hockey game at the Whale, but it's an opportunity for you to integrate a little bit more into the Yale community. And then Saturdays are 8 to 3 p.m. And that opportunity gets you through those two classes and lunch and gives you a chance to take advantage of some of our workshop opportunities towards the end of that Saturday, optional opportunities to really enhance out your experience and allow you to possibly return to your family that evening if you'd like, or perhaps stay on campus if that's something you want to take advantage of. It's a full, very full and structured weekend. After class on both days, we offer these optional options to really give you the co-curricular opportunities to be more engaged with the community. You'll take, as you can see here, 4 classes over the course of the weekend. And the colloquium I mentioned is an opportunity for you to kind of engage more with your area of focus right from the very beginning with experts that we bring to campus to kind of share insights and trends and so forth with your area of focus right from the very beginning of the program. A tiny bit more about the curriculum. The leadership development component is across both the first and second year. That's both within your traditional coursework as well as then in individual courses. In that first year, most of the courses you'll be taking are through the integrated core curriculum. I mentioned the Global Network Week earlier in one of our slides. That is the 1-week immersive opportunity where you will engage with students on a campus of your choosing through our Global Network Exchange program. We are a founding member of the Global Network for Advanced Management, and that is a partnership of about 30 business schools in about as many countries. And it allows you the opportunity to really engage with people in that arena with students coming from all of the different campuses that are part of that global network membership. In the second year, you'll do your 6 area focus courses. That's for everyone, dividing out into our 3 areas of focus. And then you will additionally have advanced management courses. And I mentioned the colloquium series that carries on from both the first year all the way through the second year. So it's the leadership development piece you engage in. It's a mandatory part of the core. The curriculum itself is very much modeled similarly to the full-time program, 75% of it being general management and 25% being focused within your area of focus of healthcare, asset management, or sustainability. To summarize everything, really preparedness is key. It's important to consider the curriculum and your readiness to take on the coursework, your learning, and the time involved. So to go a little bit more into what our curriculum looks like, I mentioned that we have an integrated core curriculum. We teach that through the organizational stakeholder perspective. So you heard about the rigor, time, steep learning curve MBA for executives students have to take. But the integrated core curriculum is similar to the full-time program, along with the advanced management courses that build on the lessons of the core curriculum to develop the strategic approaches, business skills, and competencies needed to lead within an organization. So you'll see here a number of courses around the outside. Many of those courses are part of this initial part of your program and will culminate in the class, the executive. We teach that through what we call the organizational stakeholder perspective. It's certainly you'll learn rather than by function, you learn it by perspectives of those people that will be part of your organization. As the world continues to change, it's really important to continue to understand the different perspectives of those within your organization. And we feel that our curriculum is best learned through this perspective to give you an opportunity to get a little bit more of a sense of what the thought process is of the people within your organization, so you're not coming in with a narrow focus. We're going to give you a little bit of example here about one class, sourcing and managing funds. It's co-taught and it covers functions such as accounting, finance, operations, and strategy. Faculty who teach in the core work together and sometimes weave a single case study through 2 courses to demonstrate how a particular issue can affect different aspects of an organization and can be viewed from these different perspectives I'm speaking about. This approach is more rigorous for both faculty and students, but it's also better aligned with what the real world is like, particularly in the work that you're doing. Another clear example of how we prepare you to thrive in the real world is through the raw case method. As I mentioned, this particular example talked about going through one case. The way Yale approaches court cases is through the raw case method. And by that, we mean kind of not a fully cooked case. Whereas one case will give you written from a single perspective and are used to illustrate a single point, raw cases are more of a variety of different perspectives. And though we do utilize traditional cases, the raw case method allows you to look at the information that you need and teaches you to think more broadly about a problem, pulling out the things that are important and significant to making the best choices. You and your team sift through that information, decide what's relevant, what's not, and raw cases really replicate the way that individuals access and use information in the real world. You'll learn to synthesize information from a variety of channels, which we feel is really important. So I mentioned the Global Network Week a tiny bit as I was going over the curriculum to give a little bit more specific piece to it. This gives you a little bit of a sense of where our global network partners are. As I mentioned, 30 schools across about 30 countries. Within that first year, that'll be your third residential week in June of your first year. And you'll participate in that week choosing based on what is your area of interest by and large, though sometimes people choose based on location. We leverage the network in several ways beyond just this opportunity to take coursework. We build collaboration between administration, faculty, and students through these exchange weeks and others that we also offer, and the development of the raw cases that I just mentioned. And in addition to some surveys, for example, 2 years ago, the network conducted a fascinating study on women in the workforce. In addition, the Global Network Week also offers small network online courses, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, but those are additional opportunities for you to have engagement with some of those global communities in an online format. A couple of examples of recent Global Network Week options included the Future of Food at the UCD Smurfit Business School in Dublin, Ireland, Sustainable Entrepreneurship in Latin America at IGADE Business School in Mexico, Innovative China Towards Sustainable Growth at Fudan University School of Management in Shanghai, and Business Opportunities and Challenges in Emerging Markets at Strathmore Business School in Nairobi, Kenya. So you can see there's quite a diverse cross-section of things that are offered and opportunities to explore beyond just what we offer on our campus in New Haven. I'm now going to turn it over to David to talk a little bit more about our areas of focus.
Thanks, Christine. Yeah, so in addition to our mission and our integrated core, one of the main differentiating factors for the MBA for Executives program at the Yale School of Management are our areas of focus, which, as you saw earlier, comprise about 25% of the program, as well as a colloquium speaker series that runs pretty much throughout your entire time here. So our first area of focus, which is asset management, and I'll just quickly point out here, this is one of our professors, Roger Ibbotson, who actually teaches all of our students, but is a good example for our asset management area of focus. He runs a stock market game, which is very popular in our students, and he also is integral in the creation of the CFA exam, which if you are interested in the asset management area of focus, you may know very well. So the asset management area of focus is headed up by our faculty director, Professor Will Getzman, and it's really targeted towards those who are working in or in support of the financial services industry. So as you can see here, a number of our courses touch on subjects, including, for example, a course that Professor Getzman teaches, investing in alternative asset classes. But yeah, as I mentioned, really for those working either in or in support of financial services, and really takes a deep dive in a variety of topics related to investing, financial services, obviously, things like that. So with that, I'll point out a few of our alumni profiles. So as you can see, all of our students here are coming from somewhere, either within risk or trading. I'll point out quickly our alumna, Renee Green, who is one of our female veterans who joined the program. Renee actually was an intelligence specialist in the military for quite some time before she transitioned through Goldman Sachs Veteran Integration Program. So we're very happy to welcome Renee to the program, and actually very glad she just graduated just a few months ago. With that, I'll move on to our next area of focus, which is healthcare. This is actually our oldest area of focus. The program started as specifically a healthcare-focused executive MBA program. This picture here is actually a small breakout session from our annual student-run healthcare conference, which is, as far as we know, the largest student-run healthcare conference, period. And so this is one opportunity that we're excited for our students to network not only with their peers in the program, but really all across healthcare. So talking a little bit more about the curriculum. So healthcare, may be a little bit obvious, is focused towards those working somewhere along the healthcare value chain. So our students, as you'll see in a minute, will encompass practitioners, people in pharmaceuticals, people in biotech, insurance, really, again, all across the healthcare value chain. The area of focus is headed up by Dr. Howard Foreman, who has a number of different positions around the university, in addition to being very prolific on Twitter and a practicing radiologist. We have yet to figure out when he sleeps. But so really a variety of great coursework here. And I would particularly call out our population health and health equity course, which was started a few years ago, really in response to a lot of feedback from our students who saw major issues of health inequity and realized that whether they were practitioners or working in biotech, wherever they were within the healthcare industry, they realized that they not only had opportunities, but an obligation to work to solve these injustices through their work. This course is actually taught by Dr. Marcela Nunez-Smith, who currently, in addition to her many postings around Yale as well, also works with the Biden administration on addressing COVID-19, and particularly through the lens of the health inequities that it has made very apparent. I'll talk briefly about some student and alumni profiles here. I'll actually call specifically out Dr. Cecilia Calhoun, who also just graduated. Dr. Calhoun was also one of our inaugural Posen Commonwealth Fund Fellowship and Health Equity Leadership Fellows. This is a fellowship that we run every year, which welcomes a few fellows who generally are practitioners committed to addressing issues of health equity and health inequity in the United States. So Dr. Calhoun, as well as two of her peers who are our inaugural fellows who just finished. If you are curious, I definitely encourage you to check out another one of our webinars that we hosted recently, where Dr. Calhoun, as well as Dr. Nunez Smith, some of our other colleagues talked at length about the fellowship. But as you can see, our students really are coming from all across the healthcare value chain to learn more about how they can use their work for not only for business, but for the betterment of society as well. And that brings me to our last area of focus, which is our sustainability area of focus. Now, this picture here, we're actually cheating a little bit. This is not the Yale School of Management. This is a building right across the street, Kroon Hall, which is where the Yale School of the Environment lives. But it's a very appropriate picture because our sustainability area of focus is really rooted in our partnership with the School of the Environment. And so our curriculum there is headed up by our faculty director, Todd Court. And really, this is the most industry agnostic of our areas. But what we are looking for is we are looking for students with a demonstrated commitment to impacting change and sustainability in a variety of different roles. So just quickly, I'll show you some of our courses that we have here, focus on issues such as climate change, which is actually taught by a professor from the law school, sustainable investing. So really, people looking to address issues of social justice, climate change, issues like that, and a variety of different roles. And as we'll see in just a second, our students and alumni from the sustainability area of focus come from a variety of different industries. So I'll spend a little bit more time here just because the type of role that you come in from may be completely different for sustainability. So on the left, we have Dacio Nascimento, who actually from his title, you might think might be in the asset management area of focus, but actually we have a number of students such as Dacio who have come to our program and thought that the sustainability area of focus might actually be a better fit given their focus on ESG investments and financial instruments really dedicated to improving the world around us. Sami Ghazi in the middle, who just graduated, has a title that you might think of as being a little bit more clearly sustainability. He works for PepsiCo and is currently the director of Global Sustainable Plastic Partnerships. He previously was the director of their Office of Sustainability. And prior to that, actually at one point was the right-hand person of former CEO, PepsiCo CEO, Indra Nooyi, who is also an alumna of the Yale School of Management. And then on the right, we have Fareen Sunderji, who is in her second year in the program, who works for a large energy company in Canada. So these are just examples of some of the different roles that students may have, but it's quite broad. Moving beyond asset management and the asset management area, a focused curriculum. If you remember, the latter half of your second year is focused primarily on advanced management courses. And this is one of the first areas where you can inject a little bit of flexibility into your program. It's quite structured, but these courses are a combination of some of the most popular courses, both with our executive MBA students and with our full-time students. And you have some choices here. So as you can see, there are 3 courses where you can choose between one and the other. And then there are 4 courses that everyone will take for a total of 7 advanced management courses. I would particularly call out business ethics, which if you haven't guessed from our mission and everything else that we've said, ethics are quite important to us. So this is a course that we really feel is important for all of our students to take during their time here. So moving on, as I mentioned, this program is quite structured. We want to make sure that we are offering you a full MBA in an executive format in 22 months while you are still working and quite often managing families or other types of obligations, which is no small feat. So as a result, it's quite structured, but there are some additional opportunities that you can take advantage of if you'd like to expand your knowledge or your learning in some different areas. So first off, one thing about our students, with the number of years of experience they have, and particularly with those largely being in one industry, they have a lot of technical expertise, and they see the opportunities for disruption within their industries. And so a lot of our students, as they are developing their leadership and honing their business acumen, really see a great opportunity to seize on these opportunities for disruption by creating their own entrepreneurial ventures. Sometimes those will be a side hustle, sometimes that will be their full-time job. Many times they do so in collaboration with their peers here in the program. So there are some great entrepreneurship resources here, both at the Yale School of Management and at Yale University, such as what you see here, which is the Sci Center for Innovative Thinking at Yale, Sci City, which is a great opportunity here for students to connect with their peers from across Yale University to get a variety of different resources to help them launch their entrepreneurial aspirations off the ground. Next, as Christine mentioned earlier, so we have the Global Network for Advanced Management that we are a founding member of. And so in addition to the Global Network Week, there is another opportunity for our students to engage with the Global Network throughout their 22 months. And that is through small networked online courses. So these are contrasted to a massive open online course, a MOOC, which you may have heard of. So these courses, which we affectionately call SNOCs, are designed to be intimate ways for you to not only learn about different curriculum content that you would elsewhere through the program, but also be able to grow your network around the world. These are limited to around 25 or so students, taught by faculty from around the global network, and they may be offered at any time of day or night, depending on where they're being offered from. So it's a great opportunity to take advantage of additional elective content and to really broaden your network globally. Next, some of our students will take the opportunity for independent research and study. We have some excellent scholarship here at the university, both with our faculty and our students. And our students make some really meaningful connections with their faculty while they're here. And sometimes we'll choose to actually go and work on a research together. And a particular example that I always love to point to is an alumna of the program. Her name is Urvashi Bhatnagar, actually partnered with the former faculty director for the sustainability area focus. And at this point is publishing books. So while this is not necessarily something that everyone has the opportunity to take advantage of, for those that do, it can create some really fruitful partnerships. And then finally, we offer a number of elective courses both at the School of Management and across the university. Candidly, this is not necessarily something that everyone is able to take advantage of. It really depends on your flexibility, your availability to be in New Haven, perhaps on a Tuesday morning. Not everyone is able to do this, but many students can take advantage of. Sometimes electives are offered on a Thursday evening before a class weekend, or sometimes students have the ability to come out to New Haven, on whatever weekday it is that a course is being offered. And an example that I always like to point to is Decio, who I mentioned earlier in the sustainability area of focus, actually took, as I recall, a class in Yale College called Planets and Galaxies. And he was able to do so because he was fairly local. So really a wide variety of electives that you can take here. Yale is yours. And if you can make it work, you are welcome and encouraged to take advantage of whatever you can while you're here. Speaking of, we also want to make sure that our students are able to really connect to the life of the school. Yale is yours when you are here. And so as you remember that class schedule or that weekend schedule that Christine showed earlier, on Friday evenings, we often have these optional cross-campus activities, which are designed to, again, really help you connect to the life of the school. So our students will do things like visit many of the great facilities, museums, libraries that we have across campus. They'll participate in some of the sporting events. So on the top left, believe it or not, that's actually a hockey rink, the Ingalls hockey rink. And our students will go see hockey games there. I believe at points they have actually played hockey there. It's very brave of them. If you can see on the bottom left, that's our students at the famous or infamous the Yale-Harvard football game that happens yearly. And I'll also point over to the right where our students have the opportunity to tour. They tour many different facilities around campus, but this is a notable one, Harkness Tower, where they actually learned how to play the carillons, which are bells that will play out a variety of different songs throughout campus. And so some really great opportunities to learn more, to have fun while they're here, and to really be a part of the community here at Yale. And then lastly, there are also some really great optional workshops that our colleagues in the program office cultivate and curate, leveraging some excellent thought leadership from across the university. So these happen after class on a Saturday afternoon. And I'm consistently in awe of our students who I imagine must be thoroughly exhausted after a long week of work and then a full 2 days of study, will take more time out of their lives, away from their families, away from everything else that they have to do to learn more from some of these great workshops that we have. So one that I'll particularly call out that is quite popular is Executive Voice and Presence, which is offered by Grace Sandarsky, who is actually a drama coach at the Yale School of Drama. And so she actually teaches our students how to apply improv and acting principles to how they present themselves in a professional setting. How are they in a boardroom? How are they in a presentation? And so they actually play a variety of really valuable improv games and things like that so that they can learn how to best manage their presence in any professional setting. So some really great workshops that they can take advantage of. And really, we want to make sure, again, that you have the ability to take advantage of everything that Yale has to offer you. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Liz Lewis, who will talk about our admissions process.
Thank you, David. Yes, as a quick introduction, I am Liz Lewis. I, along with David, am one of the assistant directors on the MBA admissions team. So as David mentioned, I'm going to talk a bit about the admissions process and what is required for an application to our program. So here you can see the steps in our admissions process. It is pretty straightforward, as you can see from the 5 steps that we have listed here. To start, you would submit an application by one of the 3 round deadlines. Once the deadline has passed, the admissions committee will read all of your applications along with every single application component in each application. And then we will come together to review. After the review, we will extend invitations to interview. So if invited, you will join us for the interview day, where you will have an interview with an MBA staff member, as well as one of our alumni volunteers. You'll also take part in a group discussion and some other activities throughout that day. So after the interview day, the admissions committee will come together once again to do another review of your application along with that interview before coming to a final decision. So here you can see our application components, and just below that are our deadlines. Again, this is hopefully straightforward with no surprises here. You will need your resume. Try to keep it succinct, about 1 to 2 pages if you're able, with really just the most relevant information so that the admissions committee can review your candidacy. There are also 2 essays required within the application, as well as the area of focus. So when applying to the program, you will need to choose one of our 3 areas of focus that David went over earlier, and why you've chosen that area. Next, we have 2 letters of recommendation. So it's always great to start thinking about who you'd like to write those letters of recommendation and give them plenty of time to get those letters submitted before the deadline that you have chosen to apply to. We also require a standardized test for all applications. So we accept the GMAT, the GRE, or the executive assessment. We really don't have a preference for one exam over the others, but we do highly recommend the executive assessment. It was designed specifically for MBA programs, and it's a much shorter exam. So it really is a great option for the busy working professionals applying to this program. I should also mention that a valid score is one that is within the past 5 years. So if you've never taken one of these 3 tests before, or it was more than 5 years ago, you will need to take one of these tests. We also require transcripts for all academic programs that you've attended, as well as the employer approval form for your time away from the program, time away from work to attend the program. And then, of course, the application fee and the invitation to interview that I mentioned earlier. So just below this, you can see the application deadlines. We do not have a rolling admission. So in order to be considered for the class of 2024, you will need to apply by one of these 3 dates. So for the first round, you will need to have all of the above components submitted by November 3rd, 2021. Round 2 would be January 31st of 2022. And then round 3 is March 30th of 2022. So what can you do next as you're considering this program? A great place to start, as you can see here, is to do a pre-assessment. You can visit our website and submit a pre-assessment, and a member of the admissions team will review either your resume or your LinkedIn profile, whichever you choose to submit. We'll give you some feedback on that, as well as some next steps, and it'll also open a line of communication with the admissions team. Also attend some MBA and Yale SM events. Again, on our website, we have a number of events that are a great way to get to know about the program, get to know about the school, and decide if it's the right fit for you. And then, of course, reach out to the admissions team. We're all happy to chat and answer your questions, so feel free to reach out to us at any time. And here is the Office of Admissions. You've heard from Joanne, David, Christine, and myself. And then we are joined on this slide by our Assistant Dean, Wendy Sung. And again, at the top is our email address there, so feel free to reach out to us at any time.
Thank you so much, Liz, Christine, and David. It's wonderful hearing from you. And of course, any good webinar will end with some Q&A. We tried to capture and go over as much as we possibly could, but of course, we always know we have questions, and a few were submitted in advance. So I'm going to rely on the expertise of my staff, my colleagues here, to help answer some of the questions. And Christine, if it's okay, I'll start with you. One of the questions that we got was about community at Yale SOM and in the MBA program specifically. Can you give us maybe an example of how students build community in the program, both, maybe sort of generally, but what does the program do to help foster that sense of community?
Sure, absolutely. So, Joanne, you talked about being a non-transactional community on purpose and of purpose. And part of the way that we try to help to nurture that is through our learning teams. While our cohorts themselves are roughly about 25 people in each of the 3 areas of focus across your 75-person class, from that we whittle it down a little bit further and create 5 to 7-person learning teams that really allow you the opportunity to kind of have your small little family within your Yale community. We do try to make that community as diverse as possible in terms of the areas of focus and geography and all the sorts of things that people are doing professionally, to give you as much of a chance as possible to get to know different members of your classroom community. One other way also that we really think helps to naturally foster community is as part of the program, that overnight stay from Friday night to Saturday night is at the Omni Hotel in town, and actually really lends itself to, creating easy community, a little bit like a family, sharing breakfast in the morning in the hotel before you head over to campus. You have lunches on campus together. So those are some of the things that really help to foster that, in addition to the events that we do throughout campus, integrating you into the broader Yale community, really trying to help you be part of New Haven itself. Those are some of the ways that we try to do that a little bit more structurally.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Christine. Those are great examples. David, I'm going to turn it over to you since you went over our areas of focus. Tell us a little bit about when this decision has to be made, and maybe how somebody can better understand what their fit for a chosen area of focus might be.
Yeah, so the short answer is it needs to be made by the time that you apply. When you apply, you are applying with a particular area of focus in mind. As Liz mentioned, there's actually a short little paragraph that you're going to be writing about how your work and your trajectory aligns with your intended area of focus. But if you are curious about whether you are fit, there are a couple things that I would encourage you to do. First off, there's some really great information on our website. All of the courses that we talked about today are listed on our website. There's some really great information about those. Take a look through those and ask yourself, are these things that I'm interested in? Does this apply to me? Are these concepts that I understand? Sometimes they can be quite high level, and presuppose a good amount of knowledge already. Is it going to align with the overall direction of my trajectory? Then next, beyond that, I would encourage you to, if you've not already done so, do a pre-assessment. Submit your resume or your LinkedIn profile as Liz suggested, and on that, you're indicating an area of focus that you would like to apply to, and we'll tell you. we try to be really candid as a team. And if we feel like your area of focus alignment might be not clear, we will ask you. We may ask you for clarity. We may sometimes tell you we're not sure that it's the perfect fit. Or sometimes we'll tell you that we think it's a great fit. But we definitely encourage you to make use of us and the resources that we provide, and we'd be happy to discuss your alignment further. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to check out our community profiles. This is a great repository of information about many students who've come, who are in our program, who've come through our program, and can let you know not only the types of peers that you might be in the program with, but the types of backgrounds, by way of suggestion, of course, that we may be looking for. We are always looking to promote and increase diversity within our program across a variety of different areas, but we're definitely open to considering new types of backgrounds in our areas of focus. We believe that you will learn well when you are in a diverse group of peers. So if you have questions or you believe that there's a case to be made, come talk to us and we'd be happy to hear you out, to provide feedback, and help point you towards putting forth the strongest possible application.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. Liz, I think we have time for 2 more questions. I know you have one for me. I'm going to start by asking you one question, and then you can toss it back over to me. But the question I have for you is on interviews. Since you were talking a little bit about that as part of our admissions process, you did talk about the 3 types of interviews that we have. But tell me a little bit about how somebody might get invited to interview, and then what the day is like. You just mentioned 3 facets of our interview day, but it's actually a much bigger process. So anything you can shed light on the interview process would be great.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, interviews are required as part of the process. So interviews are by invitation only. So once we go through that step of reviewing applications, we will extend to some applicants an invitation to interview. So the day is really quite full, as Joanne was kind of touching on. So you will have an interview with an MBA staff member. You'll have an interview with one of our alumni volunteers who are so amazing, and it's really great for you to get to know them through this process as well. And you will have the opportunity to join a group discussion with other applicants that day, as well as the possibility to meet with the faculty director of the focus area that you're applying to, and then options to possibly meet with students and other activities throughout that day. So it's really a long day, but it's a really great way for you to really see if this feels right to you, and it's a great way for us to get to know you as well.
Yeah, excellent. All right, Liz, what have you got for me?
Yeah, so a quick question for you, Joanne. Is there a minimum score for the test that I mentioned earlier, the EA, the GMAT, or the GRE? And do I have to have a score before I apply?
So great questions. Yeah, so the answer is sort of all of the above, yes. But the piece on the minimum score is a solid no, but you do have to have a test. So certainly, making sure that your application is complete requires the valid test score be in our hands by the time that you decide to apply for admission. So while there is no minimum score, we can talk a little bit about aiming and shooting for a score, and I'll talk specifically about the EA. And in part, we do that because it's the test we see the most of these days. We started taking the EA about 5 years ago. It was created not that much longer ago than that. We really believe in the validity of this exam to sort of assess your readiness for an MBA program specifically. So we will encourage you to shoot for a score of about a 150. Industry-wide across our peer institutions, we've all kind of come to the conclusion that that's a test score that can really give the committee the confidence that they need to answer the question, is this person ready for the rigor of an MBA program at the executive level? So that's what you're going to want to go ahead and shoot for. A 10 on each subsection is also recommended. There's a quantitative section, a verbal section, integrated reasoning section. And again, we sort of determined through some studies that that's a reasonable expectation for success in a program like Yale SOMs. The great thing is that you don't have to remember anything that I've just said. We have a wonderful webinar that is posted on our YouTube channel that includes myself and Christine, as well as our friend Eric Chambers from the Graduate Management Admissions Council, or GMAC, talking about the exam, how it evolved, what the components of it are, and some good tips and tricks for prepping for the EA. As far as the GMAT and the GRE go, we don't see too many of those scores anymore these days, but again, there is no minimum for that. And all of the websites for all of these exams have some great resources, including some prep materials that are completely free. So we definitely encourage you to start with what's available for free on those different websites. And then as far as, sorry, Liz, I lost your question. You asked me about the EA, and what was the second question? I know.
And then do you need to have that score before you apply?
Great, so I did answer that question. Sorry, I lost my thread there. So definitely we'll need that score. If you have any questions about timing or about taking the test online, which all three of those testing agencies do now offer an online version of those tests, please let us know. We can certainly be flexible within a day or two, but you're going to want to shoot for having everything in hand well before the application deadline. And our deadlines do come up quickly, but please reach out to us, let us know how we can be helpful in order to make sure that your application is as complete as possible. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, including my team. So we're going to go ahead and end our webinar there. I want to encourage you to continue to stay in touch and engaged with us through our upcoming webinars, virtual events, and by reaching out to us individually. We're very happy to connect with you one-to-one. So please go ahead and engage us when you're ready. Other than that, we'll look forward to potentially meeting you in another event one day and looking forward to seeing your application for the class of 2024. David, Christine, Liz, thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, our audience, for joining us as well.